Good afternoon. I welcome everyone who have joined us. Olga Tomanova, I'm glad to welcome you to the Media Center Ukraine today. It is the 722nd day since the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor started, and we invited you to the presentation of the book Revolution of Dignity, the Black Mass, Internal and External Danger Threats 10 years ago and now. On the 20th of January, we are commemorating the Heavenly 100 Heroes. So the classic of journalism investigations, Kievan Paulo Romaniuk has gathered a lot of information here, and he shares with us the facts that were not known before. He's also revealing the secrets of crimes and some behind-the-scenes figures. And we see there not only the history of what was happened, but also the promises and hopes and what has come of them. We have here Taras Shevchenko, who is a Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Politics of Ukraine, Maksym Udovychenko, Director General of the State Enterprise, the Center for Protection of the Information Space of Ukraine, Tetiana Yaroshovets. She's Doctor of Philosophy and Director General of the NGO International Institute of Ukrainian Studies, Vasyl Pazyniak and Oleksandr Tymoshenko, who are the members of who were participants in the Revolution of Dignity and suffered there. Anatolii Serikov, who is the chief editor of the editorial publishing house of the journal Pamyatki Ukrainy. First of all, I give the floor to Deputy Minister Taras Shevchenko. We are on the eve of the anniversary. So what are the plans to commemorate it now? Thank you. Welcome, everyone. 10 minutes have flown by. I think that everyone who is here were in the Maidan or in the Maidans of their own cities. And for, this project, which was planned even last year, we in the ministry were thinking forward and ahead. So we planned that there were books among the laureates that would pertain to the Revolution of Dignity, because this year, as in 2023, we are marking the 10th anniversary of the beginning and the culmination, completion of the Revolution of Dignity, because the events were happening in 2013, 2014. The Day of the Heroes of the Heavenly 100, which is, of course, the culmination of the revolutionary events and also of bloody events that happened then. This is the day when we have to remember in a special way what has happened. The breakthrough pages of the history of the Ukrainian state. We are contemporaries, but the next generations will also study these events from the textbooks, and so that no falsification of history happens, which is especially true of our northern neighbors who are trying to impose absolutely different narratives and who are engaged in falsification and creating an impression that history was not how it was really. And even in the times when it seems that you cannot silence over some facts, Russia is still trying to confuse us with a lot of information, including historical issues, and to thereby interfere with the thoughts and opinions of people. So it is even more important to promote truth, and I'm happy that the ministry made our contribution and supported the authors who produced this book. And now I'm passing the floor to the authors. Maksym, let's talk about the book and how you want to disseminate it. My impressions, my personal emotions are very personal. The book is direct. It has a lot of content which was unknown to me previously. The author is expressing his thoughts directly to the maximum. Sometimes it is shocking, but I'm very happy that these thoughts will be on paper and they will be inherited by the people who will come after us. The print is 1,000 copies. Probably we will print another edition here this year, because I think everyone should read this book. Tetiana, you were working with this book, and I know that you have a speech from the author, so please read it out. Hello, dear colleagues, dear guests. I'm happy that I am honored to publish this book, which in reality is disturbing for us. This is a very necessary publication because it is historical. It is by these publications that we and our kids and our grandchildren will learn history, will study history. So the International Institute of Ukrainian Studies, which published this book, I am glad that this took place. Besides, we have published another book by Volodymyr Belinsky about the heroes of Ukraine, which is sort of adjacent to this publication. Our institute invites many authors to cooperate to produce historical books, because I say again, we will learn our history by them. Our time is not simple. Everyone with our hearts and souls are worried about what is happening in Ukraine. We cannot lose Ukraine. We pray for our warriors. We pray for our desired victory. And I think that the author of the book, and there will be more editions, more prints. He also has written the Gospel from Maria, which he wrote even before the independence of Ukraine. And now the Black Mass, what was happening over 10 years, he analyzed the situation then, and we see what is happening now. He was warning us against what was going to happen. I think that we will see more of his books, and this book is worth reading. However, allow me to read the address from the author of the book. This author was asked about the idea of his book, and he said that it's very simple. You have to read it. The book, which is published, lives its own life. Everything beyond the fact lives a separate life. Our work about the Revolution of Dignity, under the title The Black Mass, is late, but is not belated. The reasons and results have emerged from the three Maidans, from the student Maidan to the paramilitary detachments of Ukrainian patriots. And this stems from the Kievan Rus as a will of free citizens and the assault troops of medieval ages as the Cossacks and the apogee of sacrificial heroism, the OUN-UPA. The 1,000 long years of the history of Ukraine reflect the phenomenon of Maidan. Let's not break this mirror with our forgetfulness. The history gains in tempo. The third Maidan begins not with the beating of students, but from the three celebrations of the Assumption of the Mother of God, and also from the gathering by the monument to Taras Shevchenko. Myroslav Sinchich, the legendary commander of the Ukrainian insurgent army, has seen the profitable fight of Ukrainians. He said that it is much easier to gain independence than to defend this. And we expect a hot fight. When he was 100 years old and was dying, he said that he leaves this world with an easy soul and belief in Ukraine, because Ukraine is being protected by heroic warriors. So this is even more urgent and topical, the fight against the Moscow empire of evil. Another leitmotif of this book is the patriotic clerics who were providing the heavenly protection for the Maidan. Father Petro Zelenyuk from Yavriv region, district in Lviv region, also other fathers were there, three of them, and God loves Trinity. So these priests from the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, who were weathered by the underground church even in Soviet times, produced another book. And we should to remember not those who it should remember. This is what we do. By the way, the underage grandson of one of the priests came to Maidan, where he was tortured to death by the assault troops. And it is 10 years since the events, and those special forces are being under trial, but they are still free. And many of those who were in this or that way released from custody by Ukrainian courts fled to Russia and are now at war with Ukraine. And of course, we are being made to forget about the punishment of the guilty. However, our spirit again and again raise people to fight for their will and freedom. The narratives of the epic of our history are being written down by their fates and their lives. One of them is Vasyl Pazyniak, who is a child surgeon, and he was the People's Deputy MP during this. He was in spiritual unity with the priests on the Maidan. He created a self-sufficient people's detachment. He was hit by the assault troops, and he is suffering the results even after effects of it now. However, these people and Pazyniak has an inexhaustible energy and vigor. He's not only one of the heroes of this book. He is also, in fact, one of the co-authors of this book. And in the future, we will have more manuscripts like this. Vasyl, you are, of course, the person who is being remembered and mentioned by the author, and you are a participant in the Revolution of Dignity. You were wounded during this fight, so we want to hear your opinion about how this book resonates with you. Let everyone here be healthy. I want to thank the ministry and the publishers for the fact that this book was published. I have a great honor today to speak on behalf of the author. He would like to come to us. However, he's 86 years old, and quite some time ago he got the award which is called the Golden Plume of Journalism. He was an investigating journalist who was not afraid of any power, any authority. He always came out victorious. And I do not exclude a possibility that he will be brought to court for this book, because there's quite a lot in this book that is not going to be liked by those who have power now, and their abettors. However, on behalf of Pavlo Romaniuk, I must tell you that he is prepared to write even more in this saga of the Revolution of Dignity. We have not paid so much attention to the events on the Maidan, because there's a lot of memoirs about the Maidan. After every court hearing after the Maidan, our public organization called Indomitable Maidan has taken part in more than 750 court hearings. Just think of it. It's a 10th anniversary now of those tragic events. But what do we have now? Almost no one of the torturers of Maidan has been punished. We know who is now at the president's office, Mr. Tatarov, who during the Maidan was deputy head of the investigating department of the Ministry of Internal. And in courts, we feel that they are actually treating us very badly. We are conducting the register of judges, and only where it concerns the events of the 17th of February, because we are joined by the people who were treated badly and suffered on the 18th of February. So our register has 127 judges, of whom only 5 have the right to be a judge. Others are despising us. They call us the trash of Maidan. In our Podil court, one of the judges came to us and said that you are the leftovers of Maidan. And for those who don't know what is black mass, I might tell you that it is what Satanists are doing. And this is a sacrilegious service by the Satanists. I must tell you frankly that as a citizen of Ukraine, as a public figure, and by the way, I was a participant in all the three Maidans, the Student Maidan, the Orange Maidan, I was the and also of the Revolution of Dignity. I was the MP then, and I've won the election against Mr. Kozak, who left Ukraine for Russia now. So the court system of Ukraine now is the threat to our national security. It is even probably a bigger threat than the Putin's herd, because it ruins Ukraine from inside. You have probably never gone through such treatment as we go through in our courts, when judges openly side with killers, with murderers and torturers. They do not allow us to ask questions to the accused. They say that you may ask only about your own episode case, and when Mr. Tymoshenko wants to show a photo, he is being told it's not still the time for this. When we start to examine the evidence. But when will this happen? It's been 10 years. 139 criminal cases are in courts pertaining to Maidan, and 69 of them in 3 days will be thrown to garbage. So my question is our state efficient? Over 10 years, our procurator's office, our investigators were doing something. They were making us believe that they were doing something. And in 4 days, almost 50% of Maidan cases will be buried in the garbage, in the bin collectors. The torturers are free. No one is arrested. Sometimes we emerge from the court and see the commander of the Lviv Berkut police, and there are 4 other stooges with him, and they are showing at us and saying, here they are. So we had to write a claim to the procurator's office. And they are all free, and they are not punished. And the proverb says that unpunished evil bears even more evil. They were bringing war to our land. In Maidan, I have an absolute feeling that there were representatives from the Russian FSB there. I have an absolute feeling that this was coordinated from Russia. And just think, 10 years have passed, and we have several honest people at the procurator's office, and they have established that the commander of the Lviv Berkut Special Force had 2 Russian passports. So how he could become a commander if he had to go through a special checkup? He was working even then in order to bring war to our land. Sometime before half a year before the Great War, this guy said, we will soon bring you to court as people who organized the coup. And this is what Putin says, that Maidan was a coup d'etat. I know for sure that if Ukraine were captured by the Russians and they were preparing to capture Kiev, I think that Ukraine would fall then. Then they would have execution lists, and there were 1,200,000 Ukrainians in those execution lists. Those were people who took part in the anti-terrorist organization, operation and also on Maidan. I think that those lists were sent to Russia. I am asking this authority and the previous authority, what would have happened if Putin were able to come here? We would not be tried for 10 years. We would be summarily executed. However, on the 20th of February, we are closing and throwing to the garbage 69 criminal cases that are in courts, and within 5 years all the rest will be thrown away as well. Over the years that have passed after these bloody events, almost 30 of the relatives of the heroes of Heavenly Hundred have passed away. They were not able to sustain the pressure and the sacrilege that was done to the memory of their children. One of them is Katerina Shapoval, who went to every court here in Sergei Shapoval was her son. He is a hero of the Heavenly Hundred. You can see his photo in an embroidered shirt and with a smile. He was killed on the 18th of February, and we have testimony from those who saw his death, who were doing surgery on him in the House of Officers, and the nurse, a surgery nurse, who was there and was crying at a sergeant, and one of the witnesses has said it. When she saw that Sergei died, she fainted, and the sergeant said, I should finish the operation, the surgery, although he was dead. And the witness who was under the operation table said, our blood was going cold in our veins from what we hear in our courts. And this is the satanic black mass in our courts, which is going on for 10 years. I thank wholeheartedly to those who were brave enough to publish this book. We cannot forget these histories of our pages of our histories, because if not for Maidan, we wouldn't have Ukraine now, because the Lebedev and some Lomatin, who were heads of the Ministry of Defense, were citizens of the Russian Federation, and the security service was also headed by Yakimenko, who was the citizen of the Russian Federation. They were preparing Ukraine to be enslaved and given to Russia. So the Heavenly Hundred, with their deaths, and those who barehanded fought the criminals in the uniform, they have stopped this process. However, there were agreements. I think that in future books, Pavlo Romaniuk will write about this and how this is working now. Do you know that there's a Zakharchenko Foundation in Russia, which is called Southeast, and millions of dollars are coming from there to bribe people here in Ukraine? And this is what the Procurator General's office said in court. This is proven now. So there are huge money flows, and the lawyers of those murderers are sometimes passing the money to the judges, and when the judges are corrupted, you just can imagine what is really happening. I am most indignant about the Svetoshina court when the head of the court, Mr. Yaselsky, has brought the case to the 18th of February, and over the last 3 months, he hasn't appointed not a single hearing. He was protracting. And if he was appointing the hearing, then the accused was not brought. So on the 18th of February, they have the right to throw this case to the garbage. And the same thing is happening everywhere, in every court. But let's try to come back to the book, to the author. But this is what there's in the book. I hope that there's a lot of issues that we still have to discuss. And I think that we have this in our plans. And we will invite people from the General Procurator's office, and we will talk to them in more detail. Very good, but I will name some other people as well. We were coming out of court, and Romaniuk was calling me and asking me what was happening, and I was telling him what was happening there, and he put this on paper. So as far as our cases are concerned, the cases of the 18th of February, we have a total zero. We were not able to reach the punishment of the torturers of Maidan within 10 years. In the Podil court, Shapoval, there was the hearing which was going on for 6 years, but he was put under such pressure that he left Ukraine, and at the moment he is fighting Ukraine on the side of the so-called DNR and LNR. So we should not allow to extinguish this fire of justice. Sometime I used to say that our dead have chosen us. James Mace once has written, "Your dead have chosen me." Sometimes we are very few. Sometimes only one person from us came to the court hearing, and I was feeling that someone is interfering, and they were paying money to people for them not to come to the court. And one of them told me that he was called by the General Procurator's office, prosecutor's office, and he said that he had no money to buy tickets. I bought him 2 tickets to come to the court hearing, but he didn't come. And later he told me that he was told that he shouldn't come because people from the special forces, Berkut, are now fighting for Ukraine. And he was promised 25,000 not to come. But the information can be in this book can be useful for us. Absolutely. It will be very useful, so that in schools, in universities, at historical departments, people learn, people study, and people remember. Yesterday I heard that it was a speech that 17-year-olds were told about Maidan, and they didn't know anything about Maidan. And I think that if at school they will study it even in several paragraphs, this will be very useful for the future of Ukraine. And if we punish the killers, murderers of the Henley 100, I think that if we have done this, then this awful war would not happen. However, the aggressors saw that everything can be bought, everything can be sold, and they came to us with a full-scale invasion to our country. So I want to wholeheartedly thank you, and you, Mr. Shevchenko. I know that this was done under your patriotic supervision, so that you do not forget about Maidan, about those tragic pages of our history. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Thank you. We understand it. Sorry, I have to run to some other place. Just 2 or 3 short remarks. Before I started to work in the ministry, I worked in the public sector on the issue of court reform, and I think that what we were not able to do and has very serious after effects is the illustration of judges. And this was not done to judges, although something was done to our state officials. And radical illustration could really change the situation. This did not happen. However, there are some accents that I would put. Well, you said that as if Russia was so affected that they would kill us very soon and efficiently. Of course, this is not what the Ukraine shall do because we want to have the just and efficient court system which would work fastly but with proof. And your last remark about the inefficiency of court system led to the attack by Putin, so that I don't want us to look for the reason of the attack in ourselves. The reason there is in Russia. However, this is one of the components, I would say. And I would tell you that the Berkut servicemen would kill us, would execute us, not the Putin. We know that your photo illustrations are in this book, and I know that you have made more than 9,000 photos in Maidan. You were also wounded there. Please tell us about. Thank you very much, everyone who took part in publishing this book. It is a very valuable material for our next generations. I'm brave enough to say this. Thank you. And especially the fact that my photos are illustrations to this book, which I made a lot. They are valuable because they bring us truth. What Mr. Romaniuk said in his words is being corroborated by every one of my photos. I have come here from the court hearing where the three judges were talking about the evidence. So I told them, consult the source which this book is. It was presented yesterday in Lviv, today here in Kiev. There's a full information there, details and names and chronology. There's timeline. There's everything there for the court that was not able to procure evidence. Just study the book and it will be easier for you to collect and use the evidence, including the word, including the photos. And the people who suffered there are still being put to suffering for 10 years. I'll show you the photo. The prosecutor Venediktova promised me to hang this photo in her office after I told her what this photo is. This is our public union. Vasyl Pazyniak was the initiator, and we are co-founders. We are at the grave of Katerina Shapoval, where she was crying. However, we were now crying. Above her body, she was buried next to her son. I was sitting next to her for years. Mr. Pazyniak offered to treat her, but there's no medicine that treats from grief. And she said, I forgive you, the killer, but ask me, the mother, for forgiving you, for forgiveness. And he didn't want to do this. Truth is always truth. It will come out. I have staged 70 exhibitions in Ukraine. And some school children ask, what is this? What is this? Some of them were not even born before after Maidan. And some of the teachers are joining in studying the events of Maidan. Thank you everyone who took part in publishing. I know that you can show your photo at the moment, so I ask our technical team to launch the show.
Залаєш ми в злу годину, залаєш ми в злу годину. Сам не знаю, де погину, сам не знаю, де погину. Погину я в чужім краю, погину я в чужім краю. Хто ж ми буде брати яму? Хто ж ми буде брати яму? Виберуть ми чужі люди, виберуть ми чужі люди. Ці не жаль ти, мамко, буде, ці не жаль ти, мамко, буде. Якби ж мені, синку, не жаль, якби ж мені, синку, не жаль. Ти ж на моїм серцю лежав, ти ж на моїм серцю лежав. Плине кача по тисині, плине кача по тисині.
Слава Героям Небесної Сотні, слава
Glory to the heroes of Heavenly Hundred, glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. A lot of pain, a lot of memories, and of course the impunity only adds to this pain. So, Anatolii, let's try to sum up Well, today's presentation and the book and the photos that we've seen is the clot of blood with as if a heart that pulsates. It's hard to talk after these photos, but just imagine that Mr. Taras has made, that he has shot more than 9,000 photos. His work is not published. He was wounded in his head from a pistol by Berkut servicemen. However, by some miracle he survived, and of course he deserves great respect with his feat of valor, and he has staged more than 60 exhibitions all over Ukraine without any profit for himself, and he gives this away to anyone who wants to use it. And I think that everyone was impressed by the topic, or rather several topics raised by Mr. Pazyniak, and he's one of the protagonists and the author of the foreword to this book. However, there's a lot left as outside the book, because it was technically impossible to publish everything. Our publishing house joined the project when we got the invitation from Tetiana Yaroshovets, when we got to know that it was possible to do this before the 10th anniversary. Because it was not simple, because the author is not simple as well. You know, he is a very complicated person. Just imagine that 3 newspapers were closed down in the Lviv region because of his publications. He has written a lot. He's a specialist in journalism, not just the owner of the Golden Plume. He is the owner of the Golden Intellect. Every morning he sits at his writing desk and he is pushing the plow, and he's writing and writing and writing. And those who will be able to read this book will feel how he thinks, how he invites you to think, how his thoughts and his comparisons are being born. And this author is, of course, close to the Ministry of Culture, because for 25 years he was the own correspondent of the newspaper Kultura и Życia, Culture and Life, and then he got the nickname Newsman Killer. 5 generals were removed in Soviet times from their positions, militia, police generals, even in Soviet times. So there was a lot of work around this publication and a lot of interesting things. It's regrettable that out of 9,000 photos that Mr. Tymoshenko has made, we were not able to print more than a few. But we also wanted to show the author. Many people from the older generation know the journalist Romaniuk. He was awarded for several times by the National Union of Journalists when this union was more democratic and more well known than now. However, we should also say about him being targeting global topics, and he's touching upon them in this book as well. So I think that in this context, the reading of this book will be very interesting. I also want to use this opportunity, the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, and also the State Enterprise, the Center for Protection of the Ukrainian Information Space, for the important thing that they are doing. Over the last decades, we have not seen such work. Now it is coordinated, is well adjusted, and they are holding contests, as a result of which public organizations like the one that Tetiana Yaroshovets has and Democratic Publishing House may get necessary opportunities for their work. I want to thank everyone for this conversation. It was very painful, but it is also very important. We see many challenges in front of us. And of course, I want to thank everyone thanks to whom such books are being published and become accessible, and I want to thank those who devoted their lives to the victory of justice. And I also want to thank our armed forces and the defense forces, due to whom we may gather. We are working together for our victory. Glory to Ukraine.